Just going to give people a few minutes to start to join us, and we're going to get ready to go. All right, I see we have some folks beginning to join. Everyone's up with the birds, ready to start their day. I'm just going to pick up something over here. Hang on. All right, everyone's on time. I wasn't even going to hand out tardy slips. All right, I think we have the bell. It looks like it's 10 o'clock over here. So hello, welcome. I'm Julia. This is our first launch of the Handwork Studio Creativity Time series, and we are so excited you have joined us today. Right now, I'm hunkered down at our Narberth studio right outside of Philadelphia. This space has been for the last 19 years a bustling hub of after-school classes, workshops, camps, and beyond. And our passion is really teaching skills through making. And we believe it's a fundamental right to have access to learning these skills, so we are thrilled to be able to bring these 30-minute lessons to everyone. The other thing I will note is that once this video is wrapped up, we're going to go ahead and load it up on our website, and you're going to find it on our YouTube page as well, so you'll be able to reference this at any point in time. So don't worry if you miss anything. All right? My goal today is to walk you through, and this might be a little cheeky, and there's no pun intended, I'm going to be showing you all what you can do with all those toilet paper tubes that you know are going to be hanging around. So, this is going to be a TP tube tutorial and how to turn it into a knitting machine. So, this is Julia's Knit-O-Matic. I have taken these boring old rolls of toilet paper tubes and I'm going to turn it into something super functional and fun, like making these gorgeous cords that can be worn, or headbands, or at the end I'm going to offer a couple more suggestions, but I'm going to recommend jump ropes since I know everybody's looking for activities to do with their kids, and you can't go wrong with getting outside and getting some exercise. So you can turn your craft project into an exercise routine as well. So what I'm going to do is first show you what a wonder knitter is. The idea behind a wonder knitter is to introduce concepts of knitting, and I can almost guarantee many of you out there are probably wearing something that is knit. So if you pull on your clothes and it gives a little stretch, that's knit. If you don't have zippers or buttons, you can pull it on over your head. We can thank those that make knit clothing. So if you start to really zoom in, microscopic level, and you pull it apart, you're going to start to see that there's little loops. So the idea behind something knit is interlocking loops, which means they're hooked or they're linked together. So many of you can think that it's sweaters or hats or mittens, but it's also your Lululemon pants and your bathing suits, and you guys can think of a million different things that would be knit. So what we're going to do is create some more blown up versions of what would end up being knit. And so I do want to show you what a wonder knitter or a knitting machine can look like. Some of you have maybe been to the craft stores before, Michael's or Joann's, and they sell these loom knitters. They come really large, but you could probably like wear over your head. So you can actually knit hats using something like this. You can knit socks with something like this. So think about things that are going to go around your body. It's much easier to do it on looms like this than to do it on a flat surface. We even have these looms that are rectangular. They're going to be a little wider. They could be flat pieces. So it becomes a very creative way of figuring out how to make things. What we're going to do right now is I'm going to teach you guys how to set up your wonder knitter. So this one right here, the one I created, is just this plain old toilet paper tube. And if you notice, I used paper clips around the top, and I used some tape around the tube to attach our paper clips, and I have some yarn. So To begin, we need to collect our ingredients. And what that's going to be is something that is a tube. You can honestly use anything around the house. If you have a tin can that you open up the bottom and the top, if you have any like pencils and you want to use pencils instead because you don't have popsicle sticks or paper clips, we're going to MacGyver these together. The goal is to make this super accessible and budget friendly. I'll also say if you haven't run out of TP yet and you don't have any tubes hanging around, you can certainly use a paper towel roll as well. You can see I just ran out of paper towels over here. So paper towel rolls are a little big. So if you have a paper towel roll, you might want to cut it down to about the size of whomever's hand is going to be using the Wonder Knitters. So you really would end up trying to draw a line right at the top of somebody's fist, just like that. And just taking a regular pair of scissors and going ahead and cutting it once you create your line. Okay, so first thing I got, my toilet paper tube. I'm going to use popsicle sticks. So if anybody in their shopping has bought popsicles, this is a great way to reuse some of the popsicle sticks once you wash them. So I have 5 of these. I have a thing of tape. This is just some painter's tape, but duct tape would certainly work. Even Scotch tape would work. We need some scissors to cut anything that we're going to be using. And some sort of string. I'm using acrylic yarn. This is Red Heart yarn. I love this yarn because it's variegated. It gives you this great color scheme. You see how the color goes from a more yellow down to a blue. So it gets a big wow. So I highly recommend if you guys can go online and order some yarn, you can certainly do that. Or if you want to upcycle, if you have old clothes hanging around the house, you can certainly maybe find an old sweater and unravel a sweater. However, do not go and unravel sweaters without getting permission first. You can also use, if you have baker's twine, if you have ribbon, look around your house, see how creative you can get in finding something that would be a long string that you can use to hook around any of your posts for wonder knitting. Okay, I also have a marker. So just any type of writing utensil, a pencil's fine. Chalk is fine, a pen is fine. Again, these are all the things that you want to have laying around your house. You don't need to go out to get anything. Okay, so this is just going to help us to mark some areas so that our Wonder Knitter is going to be set up appropriately. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my popsicle stick. I don't know, there you guys go. My popsicle stick and my tube of toilet paper, and I'm going to measure it so about an inch is sticking up. So you don't want it like that. Don't let it disappear. And you don't want it like that. That's going to be way too tall to wonder knit. So just bring it down. And again, this is just about eyeballing it. About an inch. And I'm going to go ahead and take my marker. Hang tight. And I'm going to mark over here where I want my popsicle stick to line up with the top of the toilet paper tube. Okay? You're going to do that now with all your other popsicle sticks. So it's much easier certainly if you have it flat on the table. But go ahead, I'm going to make another mark. And if you want to bring a little math and measuring into this, you can certainly break out the rulers and work on like where do you find the inch and marking off the inch. I'm going to do it again. And don't worry about perfection. That is not the goal behind this. The goal is to get this started, and over time with more practice, perseverance, patience, you guys are going to get the hang of this, okay? So here's number 4. I'm going to go ahead and mark it again. You can see my lines are pretty rough. They're nothing pretty. Martha Stewart probably wouldn't approve. And my last popsicle stick, I'm going to put that one down. We're going to go ahead and make that mark. Okay? So I have 5 popsicle sticks all ready to get lined up. So I'm going to go ahead and take my tape. And if you don't have tape, you can use hot glue. If you don't have hot rubber bands, I don't highly recommend rubber bands because they do tend to shift on you. But it will certainly get things rolling for you to at least get your popsicle sticks stationary and in place. Another thing I'll recommend is if you want to line up your your popsicle sticks first, and your rubber bands help to stabilize your popsicle sticks before you actually start to tape it. That way you can make sure everything is going to be evenly distributed around the top of the toilet paper roll. Or you can certainly, again, take a tape measure and measure around the toilet paper tube top and decide how to divide it out. So again, you can incorporate a little math into this project. So what I have going on here, getting used to my camera here, so if anyone's having trouble seeing what I'm doing, just send a heads up. We got Miss Paige and Miss Laura on the back end fielding any calls. So what I've done is I'm just pulling out the rubber band just a tiny bit. I'm not even worrying about where the popsicle stick's really going just yet. Boop, boop, boop. There we go. And let's put our fifth one in. And I'm just looking for my little dashes over here. There you go. I put my dashes on the outside so I can actually see where they are. Certainly looks a little wonky. So now we're going to fine tune this. I'm going to start to stretch this around. You can see how great the rubber band is in helping you to hold this in place. I got two. And it doesn't matter if your popsicle sticks are perfectly even. You just don't want one really close like this and then there's a huge gap. You see how close that one is? Work on making sure you distribute them as close to even as possible. Might take a minute. I'm going to roll my rubber band down. I'm looking at my dashes. We're getting all nice and lined up. All right. What I'm going to do is take my tape. I'm going to pull it out. Yes, and I see that some folks are saying that you can use a hair tie. Yeah, anything that's going to be stretchy that you can hold these in place will certainly work. I'm going to go ahead and move this down just a tiny bit more. I have really wide tape. And I'm going to just go ahead and begin to wrap it around. It doesn't need to be completely covered, just enough to hold it all in place. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it around. I'm going to continue to wrap it around. What you want to do is make sure the tape doesn't come up over the top here. It makes it very difficult to actually do the wonder knitting. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a couple of wraps. If you're working on this with someone else, you might want to rip off the tape so that they can work with a piece of tape and then you can work with a piece of tape. It makes it a little bit easier. So there we go. Everything is pretty much in place. And we're now going to go ahead and we're going to begin to attach our yarn to the popsicle stick. So we can go ahead and take off the rubber bands if you don't want them on. You can, it doesn't matter if you keep them on or not, it's up to you. So when you're attaching the yarn to the popsicle sticks, this is called casting on. And what's going to happen is you're going to find the bottom of the yarn, a tail of yarn. Some of you might have these large skeins of yarn. And what you want to do is potentially unroll it so you don't have to walk around with a giant skein all over the place. I unrolled mine. It's about the size of a golf ball, maybe a little bit bigger. Also, if you have other people trying to do this craft, it makes it certainly easier to have multiple people working on it together when you can give everyone each their own ball of yarn. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to snip about an inch into the bottom. And I'm going to explain why we did that in a moment, okay? So I just snipped that. And we're going to take the yarn and we're going to drop it down through the tube. You can see it's come out, so it's going from the top to the bottom. And I'm going to just let the one side over here is attached. And then I have the tail over here. And the reason why I made that little snip at the bottom is I'm going to hook the tail in place. Because what I want to be able to do is to gently be able to pull, and it's not going to come undone. Okay? I will note this is hard, this first step. So again, if you're working with kids, this might be the hardest part for them to get the hang of. So my suggestion is if you try it first, get through this tutorial, practice it a couple of times, and once you get the hang of it, then start to teach anyone else that you might be working with on how to do this. And so what you're going to do is from the middle, I'm going to do this a couple of times for you guys, and I'm actually going to try to stand up and see if we can get a good angle here. Doesn't matter which popsicle stick you're going to start on. You just want to make sure you choose one, and you're going to come around. I'm starting on, I'm facing it. It's going to be the right. It's going to come around the front, like that. And then I'm going to go to the back, and I'm going to hook it. Oops, sorry. Getting used to my camera angles here. To the next one. So you see what I did? I went right over to the next one. I'm going to come around the front. And we're going to come around the back. And we're going to come over to the next one. And what you want to do is you're going to create these twists around each post. And you want to always be coming from the back to the front. And this definitely takes some coordination, so little hands really might struggle with this. And if you notice, I now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 posts that have been wrapped, and I'm going to go ahead and do that again one more time. Really making sure you guys got to see that. So you're going to drop the yarn down through. I'm going to find my slit on the bottom. I'm going to hook my tail. I always like to leave about maybe 5 inches hanging just to give a little extra yarn to work with at the end. And now what we're going to do is we're going to cast on. Does not matter which popsicle stick we start with. We have to start from the inside. Come around to the front. And then directly over to the back. Around the front, directly over to the back. Around the front, and to the back. Around the front, to the back. And once again, I got it. It kind of looks like the start of a spider web. So you guys can see that on there. And if anyone has questions about this afterwards, if you're struggling with it, we're going to highly recommend that you can reach out to us and we can work with you on getting casting on down, or reload this video and you can reference it over and over again so that you can see the process of looping around each post. Once you get this down and each post has a loop around it, life gets a lot easier, and we're going to bring the string around to the front. If you notice, now there's 2 layers over here. I have a bottom, and now I brought the yarn straight over to the top. So this is the yarn that's attached to the yarn ball, and that's called my working yarn. So all this yarn eventually is going to be knitted up by doing what I call leapfrog. And leapfrog is taking the bottom loop and jumping it over and off. So I'm going to pull out this first loop. Don't worry if you have to squeeze it a little bit. Let's see if I can bring this down a little bit for you guys. So here's my first loop here. Pull it out just a tiny bit, and we're going to jump it over. Whoop. Pull my yarn, jump it over. Bear with me for a second. We're going to jump it over and off. Okay? And this first row is always the trickiest. And we're going to come to the next one. And if you notice, If it's a little tight, you can loosen it up. You can let go. I unhooked it in the bottom if it's a little tight. So go ahead and unhook it and pull the bottom yarn to come over and off. Move to the next one. And I'm still holding the top strand to add a little tightness. We're going to pull it out and you're going to jump over and off. You're going to go to the next one. You're starting to see a pattern here, right? We're going to pull it over and off and go to the next one. And we're going to go over and off. And so once you start to get this repetition down, you're good to go. You're going to do this until you use up all the yarn. We're going to do it again. We'll hook it over here. Whoop. Trying to make sure you guys can still see it for me. Come over and off. You guys see that? This is a great game if you're teaching leapfrog. If you're going outside, you have kids at home, you can certainly go ahead and play a real game of leapfrog together. But the more you start to go around, what's going to start to happen is the wonder knitting is going to grow through the tube, okay? And it's going to loosen up. So again, I would say third grade or 8+ can certainly begin to get this on their own. Younger folks might need a lot of one-on-one help to do this in the beginning, but once they get the repetition of the jumping over and off, whoops, sorry, you guys can't see that. Jump. You're going to take it, jump, next popsicle stick, jump, and bring it around again. We're going to keep jumping. And you're going to start to see a web forming in the middle here. We're going to go ahead and do it again. We're going to pull it out, jump. You guys see that? You guys see the web? All right, so we're going to go ahead in the middle over here, pull it up and over, pull it up and over. And what we talk about is when you get into the groove with this, when you get into the groove, let me see if I can pull it from here. When you get into the groove, and bring this down a little bit so you guys can really see it. You can really get into the flow. It becomes very meditative. A lot of people use this type of crafting to de-stress. Or if you're just hanging out in front of the TV, you can certainly use this tool and have your crew sit in front of the TV and you guys can continue to craft and create and make something totally functional. Let's see, is that any better? Are you guys seeing that? Bring it up and over. And keep doing that. And pull it out. Now some people might want to use, if you have paper clips available, you can use that as a way to hook some of your yarn if you're having trouble using your fingers. Or if you have like a crochet hook at home, you can use something like that. There you go. All right, so I want to talk quickly about troubleshooting, okay? Because what's going to happen is things might go wrong, and what might be devastating and think like, oh my goodness, what happened? Your loops might pop off, all right? If the loops pop off, don't panic. What you want to do is not pull on your string, okay? If you pull on your string, think about the cartoons when the sweaters completely unravel. What you want to do is carefully take the loop that popped off and pull it so it's going to go back on. And so sometimes that might involve a little finagling. let's see if I can show you. So I'm going to show you, like, I just pull the loop back out and over, and I put it back on. All right, so if the loop pops off, just try to grab the loop without undoing it and put it back on. Just like that. Try not to pull it. Don't get frustrated. It can absolutely get fixed if you don't try to unravel it. The other thing I'll say that many folks might forget to actually jump one popsicle stick, so you'll start to go around and you'll see like, ooh, I still have a second layer on one of my popsicle sticks. So let me show you what that looks like. So here I am, I've come to my popsicle stick over here and I see that there's 3 lines. I'm going to take the bottom 2. Don't worry, it's not going to mess it up that much. I'm just going to take the bottom 2 this time and pull the 2 loops up and over the top loop. So just continue the same thing that you normally do. Okay? And just go on your merry way. So you just keep going up and over. The next thing I want to do is show you guys how to take this off your Wonder Knitter. Now I know many of you, if you're actually trying to do this along with me, you're probably not done, or maybe I was going a little fast for you to follow completely along. Again, the idea is that you're going to be able to go ahead and rewind this, pause it, fast forward it when you get to parts that you already understand. But what I want to do is I'm going to bring over my original Knit-O-Matic over here, and we're going to go ahead and take the loops off the paper clips, okay? I'm going to bring my scissors back, and I'm going to cut a strand that's probably about 5 or 6 inches. And I'm going to come over to my first loop over here. I'm going to jump it. You see how I jumped it, right? And this time I'm going to pull my yarn through the loop. See, I took off one loop, and the loop is actually still hooked because the yarn has now gone through it. Okay, so I'm going to come over to my next one. I'm going to jump it, and you guessed it, we're going to pull the yarn through. You see it goes right through the loop, okay? It's hooked that. So now I have 2 loops off, and we're going to come over to my next paper clip. We're going to jump it, pull the yarn through, and that one has now come off. Come over to your 4th one. We're going to hook it, pull it through, and then our very last one, very important to make sure you do the same thing. I'm going to bring it around, and we're going to hook it. Whoop. Make sure you hold the yarn taut against the paper clip. Hook it. Last one, we're going to jump off, pull the yarn through, and it pulls out. Woo! And give it a little pull. Everything kind of pulls into place, and you can see this is the idea of all your sweaters, how they're knit together, and your hats. This is just because it's done in the round. You get this round shape. And so I'm sure many of you are like, what do I do with this? And, you know, we're going to come up with a bunch of ideas, but the idea is for you guys to get creative with it. We would love for you to share any of your ideas. If you want to drop us a tag and show us what you've been able to create. If anyone's getting super crafty and they're tinkering with how to make their own Wonder Knitters, we'd love to see how other folks are going to make their own Wonder Knitters. But I think I'm going to turn this into a bracelet today. So I can go ahead, and this is why I like to leave a little extra yarn at the bottom. You can use this to continue to tie anything together. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this around. This has a nice stretch to it too, so I can tie it together and still stretch it off. And bring it over here. And maybe you need someone to help you to tie it, but I'm going to go ahead and give it a whirl. Or you can take it off your wrist and do it. just like a regular old double knot tie. And voila. Within 30 minutes, you guys might have a new hobby that everyone's going to be able to make something and teach someone a new skill. You can, once you learn how to do this, and you can teach your friends how to do this eventually, or you can start to experiment with how to use different colors. You can add beads and buttons to this. So like I said, go ahead and tag us up on your creations. We really appreciate you guys joining us today. And I know we have some work to do on getting our camera angles right, so that's what we're going to spend today doing. But we look forward to being back tomorrow and bringing you a new lesson in creativity time. Thanks so much, everyone.